So let's just start here. As we enter this synchronous online environment, it's really great to be able to think about the fact that we can actually connect to our students. And when I'm saying connect to our students, I'm talking about in a way that's probably not as you know, it's not like face to face, but we're still able to see them on this environment. I can still see you for the most part. Some people have their screens darkened, and that's fine. But I'm here to say that when you, and it depends on your level of comfort with your students. I'm going to talk about my experiences in the classroom when I teach synchronously, so that you have that idea. And of course, it all depends on your particular comfort level with how you do your classroom. But let me just talk about mine. So because I don't have a whole lot of students, I have between 15 and 20 usually, I usually ask that my students put their videos on. And the reason why I ask for that is because as a literacy professor, I'm teaching pre-service or practicing teachers how to teach children how to read and write. So that's my kind of reality. So I'm asking them to turn their videos on. And because of that, I'm able to interact, I think, on a different level than if I had them turn it off. I've had experiences sometimes with people in my class not having, perhaps, you know, there are issues when we talk about online environments. For example, they might not like the fact that we can see behind them. So I want to make sure that they're comfortable in a virtual background, and I always show them how to do that. Or sometimes, particularly now that we have students going back to their families and lots of interactivity and bandwidth problems and all kinds of things like that, there might be an issue with having their video on, and that's okay too. But for the most part, when I'm teaching, I ask that their videos are on. It depends on the class size, and it depends on the students. So let's just start there. I want to kind of show my screen and show you kind of some of the things I do. Sometimes it's a 3-ring circus, but this is, again, interactive synchronous tips. And here are my particular, it's my agenda for the day. So I want to talk about polling. I want to talk about engagement 101, our expectations and preparation. I want to look at chats, nonverbal feedback and whiteboards, and breakout rooms, as well as annotations. I'm going to end with, try to end about 9:40 with questions and answers. If you have a question along the way, ask me please, but for the most part, I was going to take a chunk of time for question and answers at the end. All right. So here's the thing I want you to do. I want you to go down to your bottom bar, and I'm going to put, and I'm going to launch a poll. So here it goes. When I launch the poll, I'm going to ask that you take about 30 seconds to answer this. Okay, so typically I should have the results of the poll, but it's not coming through. Perhaps we have too many people. I always tell my students whenever we're doing this, expect roadblocks sometimes. So let's see. Okay, so let me just talk about the poll as we're waiting for it to finish up here. All right, I'm going to end the poll, and I am seeing and sharing the results, and everyone should be seeing the results. So multitasking looks like 38%. Yes, I'm guilty. 8%, my mind tends to wander. No, I'm 100% focused. Oh, look at that, 5%. And then we have sometimes depends on 50%. So what do we want our students to be doing in a synchronous environment? We kind of want them to be focusing on what we're talking about. And that's one of the problems when we're in this environment, is that there's a distance. And so we have to create a closer kind of a classroom community, and that's difficult. So a poll is one way of doing that. If you look down at the bottom, most people are saying that 3 is approximately how the interaction goes, and I would probably agree with that. So the polls here is a good way to start a class. And I say that because it immediately makes people sit up and take notice that actually, well, the teacher is here and she cares about what we're thinking about. One thing about a poll is that you can actually put content in here. So if you have content that you want to ensure that they know coming in, it makes them kind of take notice as well to be prepared as they walk in the door. You can do the poll anonymously, or you actually have the choice to be able to do it and later go back and look who got what correct and who did not. But this is kind of it allows us to have less distance between us and our students, and they immediately can sit up and take notice that, yes, my teacher cares about what's happening here. So this is one of the things that I think is a really good way to be able to start our class. All right. So let me just also now share my screen. Okay, here we go. All right, so another thing we really want to do is when I'm talking about engagement, I want to make sure that I am completely prepared for my class for the day. Now, I think sometimes it's easier to do a face-to-face environment because you don't have to have this level of preparation. But I do, in order to be able to know what I want to do and have my class be able to know what I want to do on that day. So this is an example of a class I taught this spring. I always have a class resource sheet, and I always show them exactly what we are going to be doing for the day. And when I say that, they know what the schedule is. Okay, so here's my class resource sheet. As you notice down here, I've already grouped my students. Okay, they're already in a group. They know their group. These groups change all the time, but it allows them now, if I decide to take them and put them in breakout rooms, to know what to do and why they're doing it and how they're doing it. Let's take a quick peek here also at settings. I'm going to send you the settings in a few minutes. I'm not going to take a whole lot of time, but notice when you go into Zoom, there's a settings button here. I wanted to show you this. You have several areas in here. It's worthy of going into Zoom and making sure that the buttons are set correctly. Now, in just a minute, I'm going to send you the a Word document with the buttons that should be toggled on. Okay, I'm not going to go through these now, but you notice that chat, private chat, things like that are toggled on. But I wanted you to understand that this is worthy of going into and ensuring that these buttons are there. Let's talk a little bit about making it a classroom. Let me stop my share. So making it a classroom is important. Again, before I talked a little bit about the fact that I've got students sometimes who do not want to be seen, and that's okay. But for the most part, I'm asking that we be able to see each other. It creates less of a distance. And I would always, let's say, for example, sometimes we have issues with people being out in California. I had an 8 o'clock class, and luckily I didn't have anyone in California. And so that would be 6 o'clock. So we didn't have those types of issues. I think if we continued along those lines, we wouldn't want to have an 8 o'clock class, because then you'd have 6 o'clock meeting times in the morning, and that's kind of hard. But I always recorded all the time. I recorded it so students could always go back and look at what they missed or saw or were unable to participate in. But creating this classroom community is really important, and I always want them to have their mute buttons on and their screens available, at least for me. And again, it depends on your level of comfort. Let's see. So going back to chat, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the file I just suggested that we, that I want you to have. Okay. So what I'm sending to you is for you to have later on. I do this all the time. If I have something I want my students to interact with, I can go directly to the chat button at the bottom. I can put in a file. The file goes directly to them. They can open it up in that moment if they want. If not, they can leave it for later. If they're in a breakout room, they have access to the file that I asked them to have. But this file right here is actually for you to have later. It's to have you toggle on all of those different settings that need to be there in order to really have that interactivity. I'm going to stop for a second. Anybody have a question that needs to be answered before we kind of go on? Okay.
There are a couple questions in the chat. People are asking, how to set up a poll beforehand and all that. They're wondering how you did that.
Okay, perfect. So setting up a poll beforehand is actually a really easy thing to do. You have to have the polling toggled on in your settings. That's the first thing that needs to happen. Let me see if I can share my screen again. I'm going to go here. Okay, so everybody notice at the bottom where it says polling right here. You will know that you have polling capability if you see the polling icon right here, okay? That happens only if you toggle it on in your settings. What I do then, this is a PowerPoint, so I can't actually do it in real time, but you click on it and then it says create poll and you say yes, and then you can just add questions. It lets you add questions. You can have open-ended questions or you can have multiple choice questions. I gave you guys multiple choice questions, but open-ended questions are available as well. Okay, any other questions?
And you were able to do that before the meeting?
Yes, I was able to do that before the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you just launch it. I launched it just a few minutes ago, and then I can share the results with everybody.
Did you do that? Did you join the meeting beforehand and do it, or did you just do it through your Zoom profile?
So I typically, when I'm doing a class, I do it before the meeting. I can just, and I actually could do it in real time if I wanted to, but I don't do it in real time. I typically do it before the class. Here, they did it for me because it's a little different. This is not my room. So but typically, yes, I just do it before class. Takes a couple minutes.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's continue. All right. One other thing that's good to be able to know is that you have at the bottom a reactions tab. So you have to have that toggled on as well, but I can actually clap for you. I can actually put a thumbs up for you, okay? And you can do that too. You want to try it, everybody? Go ahead. I'd love for you to try it. Okay, so what does this do? Again, this creates less of distance between us and our students. Sometimes students are hesitant, as you know, to answer a question, so you want to kind of make sure that they get it. They can thumbs up it. I have presentations that are done and my students already know that they can clap for them in that way. So again, creates less distance. Let's use the whiteboard. This is a great feature to be able to use. Okay, so this is an area that I can go to and I can create, it's just like using a whiteboard in the classroom. I can, you know, type in it. So let's see. Okay, I just gave you a question. You guys can answer it. And you would answer it by going to your text button and typing on this page. Go. You should be able to do it.
Diane, where's the text button?
Oh, so if you have it, can you actually see down at the bottom where it says there are people, so you see at the top it says text, or you actually could write with the draw button, and then sometimes it gets cluttered, but that's okay, we can move things around. Okay.
Sorry, I still don't see the text button. Where is it?
The text button is, if you kind of hover down at the bottom, it says annotate. You can kind of see it. It'll be
Nope.
down.
I don't see it either.
Probably has to do with the fact that you don't have it toggled.
So if you, it's just a point, if you hover at the top of your page,
Yep.
a menu should pop up that says view options. You are viewing Diane's screen.
Yep.
There's a menu there, and you should be able to choose annotate from there.
Yeah, that's
It's
where.
up here.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. So everybody is just now doing this, and this is a great way to have my students be able to do that on a whiteboard type of thing. Yeah. You can type, you can draw, there's little stamps you can put in. I can actually say, give people some hugs right there. I love that. Go to the beach. I can put hearts in if I wanted to. This is a great way to have that. Okay.
Diane, a quick question. That's a lot of fun, but how do you get this in an organized fashion? So how do you usually do this?
So I can actually, you know, what I'll say is perhaps I'll say 3 people. I'll call them by name and say, please go ahead and tell me what you think here. I can also, if you can see where my button, my arrow is at the bottom, I can put new pages in as well. Okay, I can put as many new pages in as I want. Now, we're in a room that has probably, I don't even know, maybe 70 people in it. I'm not really sure. So it gets a little confusing, but typically, see, Rebecca just put her arrow in and she can move it around. Typically in a classroom situation, you don't have people kind of, you know, drawn all over the place. Typically what you have is more control over that. Any other questions here?
Yeah, sorry. What's the advantage of having somebody write an answer rather than speak an answer?
Again, if you have some hesitancy to speak an answer, I don't know sometimes unless I ask them to tell me. Sometimes I don't know who's answering it, so it's less of a threat, I guess, to throw in an answer that may not be correct. Some people are more hesitant about that than others, and it allows us to collect thoughts and be able to put those thoughts. I'm going to give another page, but it allows us to collect thoughts on a page and then perhaps take them and then build knowledge from that. Okay. So right now we're kind of in a loose environment, but if I was talking about content, then it would become much more structured. Okay. All right.
Diane, can you assign a whiteboard to, let's say, a breakout room, and then they can bring it back to class?
Yes, and I was just going to show you that now, Stephanie. So thanks for asking that, because I do want to show you how to do that. So let's do that now. All right. I will go back to my PowerPoint real quick. And what I want to do is talk about perhaps before I go and do a breakout room, I want to give them knowledge. Now, I'm going to talk about this, okay, with you guys. So what this is a learning pyramid. It comes from the National Training Laboratories in Bethel, Maine. What I like about this is it gives us a thought about how we learn, okay? So obviously, when we are teaching something, we really know it, okay? Compared to if we are just lectured to. There's not a lot of takeaway from just lecturing. And as you can see, you know, demonstrations allow us to retain 30%, 50% with discussion, 75% practice by doing, and 90% teaching others. So I really want to focus on these lower levels down in here if I'm doing an activity in a breakout room. These are the things I want to think about. So that being the case, let's look at how we do breakout rooms. Notice that, again, this is my screen that I took a shot of, but when I have this share screen down at the bottom, there's a little arrow right next to it. I click on that and I am allowed to choose multiple participants can share simultaneously. Okay, typically it's defaulted to one participant can share at a time. I want to click on multiple participants can share simultaneously. That's what I want to click on and make sure that that's there before I do my breakout room. I also want to, when I click on the breakout room tab right here, what I'll get is I will get the ability to either manually put people in a breakout room or random assignment of people into a breakout room. There are times when I just do random assignment. There are times when I literally want certain people in breakout rooms. For example, presentations. I had my students this semester give presentations and they did it as a team. So those people then did a presentation like we're doing right here. And then we went to breakout rooms and I had each one, there were 4 people in a presentation. Each presenter was in a breakout room so that they could lead the discussion within the breakout room. So in that case, I would then assign. Notice right here when I click on options, what I'm given the ability to put a time on the breakout room that kind of automatically brings people back when the time is up. It gives you, you can change this as well, but typically I have a 60-second, you have 60 seconds left before we have to come back time. So I can do 30 minutes. We're going to do 3 in a second. This allows me then to put them in a breakout room and have that time. I can also go into breakout rooms, literally visit you in a breakout room. I probably won't get to everybody today, but I might pop in a few minutes just to talk to them to see how it's going. And, you know, some people say, well, don't they goof off in breakout rooms? No, they actually don't, because if you're prepared, if you have a team you've assigned, if you're expecting a product coming back, they're working, okay? And this is really good if you were to have a longer class time, for example, a night class, where you can actually perhaps do some lecturing at the beginning, breaking it up with some polling perhaps, and breaking it up with some chatting perhaps. But this allows you then to have a task that you want them to do, put them in a room, expect the product coming back, look at the product afterwards, and then determine, you know, next steps. So it's very doable to, and it feels much more like you're in a classroom when you're doing this kind of work. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead, and I don't know how many people we have here, but I'm going to put you guys into breakout rooms. And I'm also going to send you a document that I want you to be able to use within your breakout room. Let me show it to you real quick. Send it to you first. Okay, sending you the document, and I'm going to show it to you. So Here it is. So what you will do when you get to your breakout rooms is you're going to have a total of 3 minutes. I want you to look at the learning pyramid again, and then I want you to identify 2 specific activities that you might be able to do to maximize learning of content. Be mindful of what constitutes engagement and thus learning. So I want you to think about these bottom layers. Somebody can be the scribe. Somebody can write down what you decided and be prepared to share. Okay, we won't have everybody share, but hopefully we can have some people share. Okay, I'm putting you in breakout rooms of 5, and I got 74 people, so I won't get to all your rooms. Okay, here we go. You have 3 minutes to do this. Option, breakout room, 3 minutes. Here we go.
So we are in a, can you hear me?
Yeah, here.
Okay, so we're doing a breakout session to just discuss.
Yeah, we'll discuss in just a couple of minutes. Some people might not be able to be into breakout rooms. I don't know why. It's okay. We can just talk about it here. If you're not, sometimes some people are leaving, some people are not.
Okay. Is that Dwayne Harbin down there?
Was that?
Dwayne Harbin from Perkins. I thought I saw his name down there. I'm a graduate of Perkins. Hey, Dwayne Harbin, if you can hear me. So where is the feature to initiate putting students in the breakout?
It's down at the bottom. We'll look at it in just a couple of minutes.
Okay.
I'll stop my share so you can see it.
Okay.
Some people are not getting into breakout rooms. Probably we have so many people, but
Yeah.
so if you hover your mouse at the bottom, you should be able to see breakout rooms. If you don't, that means
I see it now.
Yeah.
I don't think that was there earlier. I didn't have that earlier.
Okay, it could be because you might be seeing my screen.
Okay.
You would have to go into, again, I sent you the document that you have has what needs to be toggled on. It has to be toggled on in order for you to have access to it.
Okay. Great. If you could show that learning pyramid again, I wanted to capture some of that later before you log off. That
Sure.
looked like a very helpful pyramid.
Sure, and I sent you that document in chat also, so you should be able to have it. Do you see on chat at the bottom?
Yes, I see chat. Okay,
So you have that access to that document as well.
great. Okay.
Let's see how much time we have here. Okay, we're waiting for people to come back.
Can I ask while we are waiting?
Absolutely.
I sent you a request to record the session. Is it possible for me to allow students to record their breakout session?
Yes, I always record it for them, and it's recording right. This session actually is recording.
No, but the breakout sessions.
Oh, the breakout session.
Yeah.
Typically, those are not recorded on the main area. So I believe you can actually, that's something I'd have to look up.
Yeah, you can, once you're in the breakout room, anyone that's in there has the option to hit record, and it
Okay.
will record the breakout room.
Okay,
button at the bottom.
but I had to get a permission from the host,
Yes, and that's
which
because
you didn't get.
that would be because of the fact that we are in this environment. But you as own classroom. We're able to do that. Okay. So the question was, can students record in their breakout room? And yes, they can, as long as you have that toggled on. I'll tell you another good feature about this is that I always have my the button on for transcript, so that when I get my recording back, it also has the transcript, so that allows us to have accessibility whenever I go and publish a class. It provides the transcript along with it, and that's just an aside for you guys to know. So we had large breakout rooms because we have a lot of people, but notice that going into these rooms, then you can, and I'm not sure how much discussion you did have according to this, but you can discuss the task, and then somebody being the scribe then can share their screen. Does anybody want to share, if you were the scribe for this particular session, does anybody want to share? And you'd have to go to the share screen at the bottom and click on it, and then share what you put in. Anybody? Okay, no one. And that's okay too. If that happens, then I'll share my screen and we'll just kind of continue. So
Diane, hi, I'm just not sure if we knew whether we saved it or not. Like if we hit share screen, will it just pop up?
it will. Anybody? That's fine. But just know that that is something that is available, so that now students can go and they can share their screen and show what they created and then discuss what they created. Oh, somebody's doing it. Okay.
I guess I didn't save anything, so I tried.
See, that's what I'm not clear on. I don't understand how we, when I did try shared screen, it just went to all of my windows. Were we supposed to save it?
Okay, so when it went to all of your windows, and now you have to choose which document is the one that you just wrote on. Okay, so it does go to, it provides you, and it provides you with a menu. Usually it says desktop 1, it gives you an option for whiteboard, and it then gives you the documents that you have pulled up on your computer. I recommend you not having a lot so that you can choose from those documents. Okay.
One thing I wanted to add is that when you share the whiteboard and you're working with the students, and if somebody visits you during office hours and says, I had a problem with this particular graph or equation, and you go on your screen and you can find the documents that you did, basically the whole lesson you did is there. You just click on it and you say, what page is it, this, and then you find it, and is this the graph or is this the equation, what part, and it just pops up. You don't have to save or do anything, and it has them by date also, so it's very easy to find. The only downfall is that you can pull them up as pictures, I guess is what they are on the computer, but you cannot add. At least maybe you could annotate. I didn't try that, but when I tried doing it, I couldn't do it.
You can annotate. So Neely, thank you for sharing. We're looking at Neely's right here.
I'm not sure what you're looking at, but hopefully there's notes.
Okay, we're seeing a document that you have that.
Oh, good. Okay, that's what I was trying to do. I can't see it on my side. I can't see that I shared anything, but I'm glad it's showing.
Yeah, it's definitely showing. Now I can stop you. And how I did that was up at options, and I can stop that and allow myself to I can then continue on. So we're getting close to the time. So what I want to show you is one last thing here. This is really kind of important as well. Let's go back to the PowerPoint and let's look at this. So notice here that, let me make sure, that there is an annotate button down in here. When I am on that a particular screen. Okay, so I can see if I hover down here an annotate button right there. Okay, now this allows me then to annotate from my particular screen. I always have an iPad going as well. Okay, so I'm kind of a I don't know, a tech junkie, but I have an iPad going because then I can actually write on it more along the lines of a whiteboard, along with my computer. Let me show you this. And then, hold on. Why won't it go? Let's see. Let me go back. Okay. And then I can go and I can have students talk about specifically what I want them to talk about, and then we can annotate it. So I, then can go up here and use my buttons again, and I can say, okay, let's talk about discussion. And then we can add in the types of ideas that people had about discussion. Or I can say, how would we present this? And then add in the ideas. So I, as the instructor, can annotate on this particular diagram. I can also, if I wanted to, let's see. I can also pull up other documents that I think might be good. Let's see. Try this one. Okay. So for example, if I have a table that I want them to look at, okay, so now that being the case, then I can, discuss certain elements of this table and then begin to, have them look at the various columns and talk about this, from a different perspective. So I can annotate pretty much anything that I have on my screen in order to highlight that and bring it out for discussion.
Diane, sorry, is this now on your iPad or on your computer?
Either, okay? I just did that from my iPad, but I also can do that from my computer as well. Again, if you hover over where it says you are screen sharing, you should be able to have a bar pop up and the annotate button should be there. And so now I'm going to annotate from my computer.
Diane, can I ask you a question?
Yes, absolutely. We are in Q&A.
Okay, so then how do you, why have an iPad if you can annotate right from your screen? It just adds more devices and more to manage.
You're right. You're absolutely right. You do not need an iPad. I like the iPad because then I can use it more like a whiteboard. I just have it next to me.
And quickly, how do you add the iPad to the overall presentation? It's a separate device.
That's a really good question. So what I do is I just go in, I have a Zoom app button on it. I just go in and click on the app, and then I just put in the ID, the whatever ID it is.
Meeting ID.
Meeting ID. I just put it in.
All right.
And there it is. I say, don't put the audio on. That's the only thing I don't use. I don't use any audio, and I actually turn my video off usually on my iPad. This though allows me to, write just like if I were in a classroom, I have a whiteboard behind me. So you guys who do equations, you can definitely be able to do equations this way.
And this is only for the paid version of the Zoom, correct? Not the basic.
This is for the Zoom that we as SMU professors have. So This is just our Zoom account. It allows us all of these things. The document that I sent you with the toggling on, those are the pieces that need to be toggled on in order for you to use these areas of Zoom.
Diane, I'm sorry, I wasn't able to get that document. I tried to get it through chat, but I wasn't able to. Is that something you could post again, or that I could get from you later?
Sure, absolutely. I can try to post it again. Which one is that you're asking for, Stephanie? Stephanie?
I am on iPad and never received any sort of file transfer over chat either. I use computer to send when I teach, but I'm in participants today and I didn't see.
Okay. So I'm going to do it again on both of those things right this moment. And you should be able to get it, and perhaps, because it was successfully sent, and I'm going to send both of those documents to you again.
Maybe it's a limitation for iOS. I don't see anything.
Okay. That it should be, maybe, Graham?
It's in the chat. Look in the chat and you're going to see the files.
Yes.
It is in the chat and I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a limitation of the iOS app. Maybe iOS doesn't allow for file transfers in an app like that. I'm not sure.
Possibly not.
I tried Googling that during the meeting, and from what I understand, it should be able to, you should be able to receive files in an app, but I'm not sure. I mean, Zoom is making changes like every day, so there might be, security issues that they might have shut that down. So.
Yeah, typically that's how I send files. And if I don't send files this way, then I post them on Canvas in my preparation area so that the files are there. And I typically do that, and unless I need them to have it right, something that's not prepared. Let me just give you my, because we're time. I think the time is up, but let me just go ahead and give you my. Let's see, I think I put it up here. So I want to give you my, it's dgifford@smu.edu. That's where you find me. If you'd like me to send them to you through email, I can do that as well if you did not get these things. Okay. I've been really happy to talk to you guys today, and I hope you, this was valuable for all of you. Anybody have final questions? I'm here.
I just want to let everyone know that we'll have this recording and all the other recordings for the webinar on the Keep Teaching website. So just keep posted for that. And if you have any questions, just shoot your ATSD email or put in a help desk ticket and we'll get you straightened away.